Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the New York Business Podcast. My name is Jacob Restituto, and I have the absolute pleasure of having Mia Selvaggio here. Thank you so much for taking the time. Serial business entrepreneur, very different types of businesses, actually. So looking forward to this conversation. So thanks for taking the time. You mentioned this is your first interview or podcast, which is very surprising to me, but I'm honored to be the first.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So for those that aren't super familiar with you and your story, can you kind of go into the backstory of who you are, how you grew up, how you ended up in the businesses that you're in?
Yeah, of course. So I'm born and raised in Huntington. My dad has had this restaurant, Rapki's, right here in Northport for 45 years. So I grew up in the restaurant industry. Food's always been a big part of my life. My mom's like an exceptional cook and baker, better than my dad, but don't tell him that. So I grew up with always just a passion for food, talking about food, being in my dad's restaurant. And I actually ended up going to school for teaching at Sacred Heart in Fairfield, Connecticut. And then I went for my master's, and I was a teacher in the city for about 8 years. I really did love it, especially when I was at this one school in Spanish Harlem working with this specific demographic of kids. I loved being there. I loved what I did. Then I changed schools, and COVID happened, and it just kind of wasn't the same for me. And when I'd leave work during COVID, before we were completely remote, I'd be going to Rapki's, and I'd be helping my dad a lot with the social media. And a lot of his friends were asking me for help. So like during my prep periods at school, I'd be posting for Rapki's and then for a bunch of other restaurants like Pietro in Smithtown, a bunch of small local places that me and my family love. And during that, I was also actually in the middle of starting a jewelry company with my cousin, which is a whole other business of mine, Cosenza, which you know about. So I was teaching, and I was helping these businesses with their social media, and I was coming up with designs and marketing this brand that me and my cousin were putting out. And once Cosenza was up and running, it was about a year that the business was growing. It was doing really well. And I was like, this is great. I love doing this. I love working with my cousin. I love helping these small businesses. I think I should maybe have this social media as a business as a safety net in case the jewelry doesn't work out. So I was doing all three for over a year, and then in 2021 I quit teaching and I took on social media and my jewelry brand Cosenza full time. And then in 2023 we opened Birdie Bar, me and my brother. So yeah.
I love that story mainly because, the leaving school part I think is, as a college dropout, people thought that I was crazy for not going to school, for not finishing school, and not having the safety net of a college degree. And I think that you leaving this very safe and stable job, like teacher, doctor, like all those things are like kind of like that very specific, like, oh, it's that's a professional.
Right.
And to do that, to be an entrepreneur is first of all scary for you, but also scary for all the people that care about you.
Right.
Be like, well, what if it doesn't work out?
Yeah.
Now the truth is, like, you could always just go back to teaching. You might be at the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah.
Again, but
that's why I was like, I need to start charging people for this social media and doing it full time in case the jewelry doesn't work out.
Sure.
I knew social media I was just so good at, and it was just something that I loved, and it was so easy for me. So that was kind of like, all right, I'm leaving teaching to pursue this jewelry brand that I really love, but now I have the social media as a safety net.
Is it still set up that way, where the Cosenza is still like your main business, or has it morphed into the social media being the main business?
I would say my main business now is Birdie Bar, but in regards to my two safety nets, social media.
Okay, interesting.
The Amici Group, yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about how. Well, let's talk about the progression. We'll do we'll talk about the jewelry, then we'll talk about the tag, the Amici Group, and then we'll talk about Birdie Bar. How do you get the brainchild of a jewelry company? Where does that come from? How does that start? And then how do you develop that into like a thriving business? Because I think that there's a lot of people out there that have great product, but it's how do you get that in front of people? Like, what did you do to get that in front of your customers?
Yeah, so my cousin, she's actually a full-time dentist, and she's always had a passion for making jewelry. And literally in 2020, there was this Isabella Marant necklace that I loved, and I was like, I love this necklace so much. I don't want to spend $300 on it. It was like shells. I was like, can you like mimic kind of a similar necklace for me so that I don't need to buy this? Because she would do it in like 3 seconds. So She made me one that was nicer than the Isabel Marant one, in my opinion. I wore it out that night, actually, to King Umberto with my teacher friends that I was meeting up with that I hadn't seen in a while. And they were all like, where'd you get that necklace? I love that necklace. I need it. Oh my gosh, tell your cousin. I was like, everyone's obsessed with this necklace. Like, I wore it one time to this restaurant and everyone's asking me for it. What if I like kind of come up with some inspo and some designs, like we make an Instagram account for it, we make a website and we start selling it and see what happens. And she's like, you're crazy, like no one's gonna want to do that. I'm like, trust me, like we can blow it up on Ropke's, like my family will share it, like we can definitely like make something of this. So that's kind of how it started. And then we were thinking, we were on our family vacation at Gurney's, we go to every year, and we were like, what could be a name for this? Like at this point we had all of these designs. A lot of the inspiration from these designs, another story, was coming from our grandma, who was like such a glamorous fashion queen. Her picture's actually behind me, that one right there, I don't know if you can see it. So we kind of gained a lot of inspo from like pieces that she would wear. We wanted to make it different than what was out right now, kind of more like timeless and elegant. So we're like, what about, I was like, where's Nana from? The town that she's from, what's it called again? And my aunt or my mom was like, Cosenza. I was like, that's cool. And then like I was like Googling Cosenza because I've never been there. Like I've been all over Italy, never to Cosenza. And it's a town famous for its beaches and its castles. We were like on the beach. We always go on this family beach vacation. I'm like, that's like such a good slogan. Like you could wear this jewelry from the beach to the castle, like day to night.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
And that's how it all like came about, the brand and what the jewelry is meant for. And then, yeah, we launched in September of 2020. And like that day we got tons and tons of sales. Obviously most were friends and family, but there were like a couple random names that I had never heard of before. We were like watching our phone, seeing each sale come in. And then from there, we just took it, like, I mean, literally day by day. Neither of us had any experience. I found through the 4 years, when we collab with, like, influencers or people with a following, it definitely helps us a lot. We've had a couple collaborations where these influencers would design pieces for us, and it would gain us, like, a whole new demographic of consumers for the brand. So that's definitely an effective way. So I would say, like, if you're a small business looking to grow, definitely collaborating, whether it's with a person coming out with a product or like just another business, it's the quickest way to grow, in my opinion. Collaboration.
Let's talk about that really quickly, and it'll segue actually into both of your other businesses. So collaboration through influencer marketing. Influencer marketing is now a several billion-dollar business. But I think that one thing that a lot of businesses are intimidated by is they think of, oh, influencer marketing, I need to get The Rock. And like, that's not realistic, you know, but what I see thrive, like you guys doing really well, and it seems to be working really well for all the different things you do, whether it be through your social media business, the Me Too Group, or whether it be at Birdie Bar, or you know, you help manage Ropke's, your family business, and even Cosenza is relatively local influencers. You know, these people that are within 50 miles of you that have relatively decent followings, and collaborating with them, and how can you collaborate with them? So I'm curious, actually, I want to pick your brain as a social media influencer, or do you work with a lot of social media influencers and this is your job? A construction company, for example, like how do they collaborate with because it's easier, I can see it as a brainchild of a restaurant, or you have a product, whether it be makeup or whether it be jewelry.
Right.
You have a service. You're a plumber. You're a construction worker. You how do you work with influencers and something like that?
That's a good question. One of my good friends right now, who's an influencer, she's one of the few that I have done collabs with for Cosenza. She is moving to a new home, and she has a lot of different companies helping her. So, like, for example, when she made the move, she like showed how seamless and effective and efficient it was with this specific company that helped her move. So things like that. I think if these companies work with these micro influencers that have followings in the area of where their business is, and then the person's followers like trust what they're saying, I think it's a great way for any kind of service business to gain brand awareness, followers, business.
But
whatever.
now would the plumber reach out and be like, hey, do you need any plumbing services, or how does that work?
I would say 9 times out of 10, a plumber wouldn't be able to. Not that they wouldn't be able to, but I would say if the plumber has a social media team, their team would reach out.
Sure.
You know?
Oh, for example, if they were using like a group or service.
Right.
Okay, that's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
So that's a great plug for the social media business. So essentially, let's elaborate on what you're talking about. You're mentioning essentially having a management of social media, where like you're working with a company that manages other social medias, that has connections. Business, as we all know, is all about relationships, right? So like the plumber has his business, but his social media is run by a company that runs a bunch of other social medias and has all these connections and says, hey, let me connect you with this person and that person, and then you'll, through conversation and through relationship, be like, oh, I know that somebody just mentioned, whatever, Birdie Bar has a leak in whatever. Let's do a collaboration between the two. That's actually really interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of times also these influencers reach out to these companies on their own. They're like, hey, I'm moving, I need this, I need this piece of furniture, I need that. Let me reach out and see if I could barter and share about the product or the service in exchange for.
Yeah. That's very interesting. So tell me, let's go to the middle business so far, the Amici Group tag. Tell me a little bit about this and how this works and how it's run and what that looks like for you.
Yeah, so I started the Amici Group with my friend Michaela. She also, during 2020, left her job to pursue another company that she had started, My Olive Oil Cake. And I was getting all of these requests to help with social media, and I was passing some on to her because I couldn't do it all by myself. And I'm like, hey, like, I'm ready to quit my job. Why don't we kind of build this into a safety net for both of us? God forbid My Olive Oil Cake doesn't work out. God forbid Cosenza doesn't work out. We're both so good at this. We get along so well. We're both passionate about helping these small businesses grow, especially during that time. It was like really rewarding to work with these businesses. And then that's how it all started. We made our LLC. We were at Kerber's farm having coffee. We did it all on her laptop. At that point, we had maybe like 5 clients. And since then, we've grown to we have about 35, I want to say. 35 clients that we help. Some are in New York, some are in Connecticut, some are nationwide brands. Yeah, it's definitely grown pretty quickly.
So let's talk about how you grow that business, and especially where it's like more like a client service business or even a B2B, like a business to business kind of thing. I want to talk about how you have 5 clients and then how you get 5 into 35. What does that look like for you? How are you connecting or reaching out? Like, what does that look like?
So in the beginning, a lot of it was word of mouth. The clients kind of would come to us with so much more than just social media. Like, hey, do you have an idea to help me with this? It was almost like we were like a business consultant in addition to the social media. So like these people loved how much time and dedication we were putting into their business. So they'd be like recommending us to everyone. So it was a lot of word of mouth. A lot of business came from Ropke's. They saw what we were putting out on Ropke's and they'd ask, hey, who's doing your social media? My brother would just be like, call my sister. And then when we kind of hired employees and more of a team, we were like, hey, we could take on more work, and we'd just be reaching out to businesses via social media or email.
Being that this is your line of work, what would you, again, kind of gauging this towards other business owners, what would you say are best practices today in social media? What does that look like for somebody that has their own social media presence and they want to, whatever business it may be, an ice cream truck or a construction worker or a musician, whatever the case, right? What's best practices you've seen? Is it posting once a day on where? Like, what does that look like for you?
I would say repetition.
Well, I'd say probably first best practice could be working with TAG, working with a management group.
Obviously, hiring the Amici Group to manage your social media, create your content. I would say consistency and repetition is definitely the most important. Whether you're hiring a professional like you to take content or whether you're having a team behind you to help create the content and post the content. I mean, if you have no budget, as long as you're consistent and getting the same message across every day, I think that's fine. Eventually it'll grow into something better. Eventually you'll be able to hire someone to help you create more engaging content. But I kind of think you want to be constantly getting that message in your consumer's face, whether it be in a feed post, a reel, a carousel, a story, kind of using all the different ways that Instagram has to get that message across. So say you're Birdie Bar and you want to promote, you really want people coming in for the sticky ribs all the time, I would say, yeah, make sure you have 1 post a week and 3 stories a week dedicated to the sticky ribs so that when someone walks in the restaurant, they see the sticky ribs at every single table. You know what I mean?
I like that consistency and repetition.
Yeah.
So it's like you said, pushing the same message across in slightly different ways over a very long period of time.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the most frustrating. It's like any good thing.
Yeah.
All good things take time, but when you don't, we live in a society where you want to see the results now, and
Right.
when you get 3 likes on a post, people are like, well, this isn't worth it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you find like particularly like one style of post does better than another, shorter or longer videos? How does that work in your eyes, or is it all brand specific?
I think it's really, the algorithm changes every day, and it's so great if you're following creators on Instagram, because it's literally the people that created Instagram and work for Instagram, and they go on there and they'll go live and they'll give you different tips and tricks. Yeah, we can all play into this, but obviously if your brand doesn't stay consistent, who's going to watch your stuff? You know what I mean? I could be following this formula, this algorithm that Instagram's telling me to do, but if I'm not like being able to get the message across through my social media and through my business, how is that going to help me? I think having that presence in person and having that relationship with your customers or with your consumers, when you go online, they're going to kind of want to see whatever you're sharing about. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
How important would you say like the brand authenticity is? Like, whatever business it might be, that they are speaking in their own voice, or just doing what's catchy on social media?
I would say brand authenticity is so important. Anything that like you're posting for your brand should be the way that you would be speaking to your customers or your consumers in person, in my opinion. I think yeah, trends are fun when they're like relevant, but I think just being who you are in the business, kind of translate that to online, and people stay engaged.
Mm-hmm. Essentially being yourself on camera.
Yeah, definitely.
Which for some people,
yeah,
including myself in the beginning,
Yeah.
I've just filmed 10,000 videos at this point.
Yeah.
That it's a very hard thing to do. But
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now let's transition to the Birdie Bar. Where did that come from, and how did you fall into that?
I definitely fell into it. My brother, he is the face, obviously, of our dad's restaurant. He really wanted to do something on his own. So this building wasn't even for sale, but he loved this building, and he approached the people that owned the building and asked if he could buy it and turn it into a restaurant. And after going back and forth, they agreed to it.
So you bought the building too?
Yeah, we bought the building.
Wow.
Well, he bought the building. I wasn't even a part of it at that time. He bought the building. And he's kind of like, what am I going to do with this space? I want it to be like an upscale, elevated bar with amazing food. He really wanted to have the French dip, which is what we're known for here. And he wanted to have photos of sports players everywhere. So I was helping him for months, like trying to come up with the concept and the idea. I was putting all these vision boards together. I was doing so much of the work for him, which like, it's always that way.
That's what family does.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed doing it. Like I was like such a part of it. And then he's like, I'm thinking of being partners with this person and that person. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, you want a partner? I'm like, well, I'm like doing all of the work for you. Like, I know I'm going to continue to do all of the work for you and your partner. Like, I'll just be your partner. And he's like, yeah, are you sure? Definitely. Yeah, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, let's just do it. So then I had to obviously like meet with lawyers, give him money for the building that he bought so that it would be in both of our names and all that kind of stuff. And then we're coming up with the name, going back and forth. And I was like, let's just do Birdie Bar and kind of make it a tribute to our brother, who's a professional golfer. Yeah.
Which birdie is a term of golf.
It is, yeah. And if you come to Birdie Bar, obviously you'll see all the golf photos everywhere. Yeah, my brother's actually that big photo right there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I love the thread line of family throughout all of these conversations. I mean, you're working with your cousin, you know, it's your parents' restaurant or your dad's restaurant. So now I kind of want to get a little bit more like broader in terms of business and stuff. So in your experience, I like asking all these different businesses some of the success stories, but also some of the failures and stuff. So what is something that you've seen really work for your business, whether it be a marketing tactic, whether it be a promotional, whether it be just creating a vibe in the restaurant, or all of the above? Like what's something that you found really actually worked?
For Birdie Bar, I would say something that really works is when we're slow and we do these specials that we let run for 3 days. First, we started being one day and we're like, okay, let's look at Open Table. We see that there's a handful of reservations for tomorrow night. Let's film something tonight, make it this like really delicious, enticing deal to get people in the door tomorrow. And then that helped us a lot. And then we're like, how about we make it? And then people would come like the next day and they couldn't get the deal anymore. So we're like, what if we make it Tuesday through Thursday, right? Because Friday, Saturday, Sunday, no matter what, fortunately, we're packed. So let's make these deals Tuesday through Thursday. So something that started with being one night, a deal, we kind of grew it to 3 nights, and it gives everyone the chance to come in, and it helps pack the place out. So obviously that helps a lot. Using social media to promote a deal, yeah.
So playing the advocate here.
Yeah.
I'm curious your opinion, and I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm just for argument's sake, for people that might say like, or might be against like a necessarily ideal, because some people, I've heard in the past of some people say, well, when you provide a promotion, it devalues the face of your other products. Like, what would your argument be against that?
For sure. And there's tons of my social media clients that will reach out to me and say like, hey, we're slow, what should we do? And I'll say, how about happy hour? And they'll say, I don't want people sitting at my bar for 3 hours with half price this, half price that, when I could have a full bar with my full regular menu. I totally get it.
But it's not full, and that's why you're asking for help.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, so people
something is better than nothing.
Yeah, that's why I think exactly that. Yeah, getting these people in here for the deal where they're buying full price drinks and getting appetizers and stuff that aren't a part of the special. I mean, you're bringing people in the door, they're drinking, you're getting business versus getting no business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what have you found in any of your business, something that didn't work, that you thought, well, this was a great idea and it just didn't work?
I'm trying to think. There's so many of those.
That's what business is, right?
Yeah.
That's the funny part. With social media, but even before social media, we as humans like to look at the good and be like, oh wow, like things look like they're so great in that person's life, and they might be, but like they don't see all the other things that went bad. You know what I mean? So if you had to pick one, or just a general idea,
pick one,
and then we'll piggyback of what did you learn from that?
Right. I would say that there was one dish that we put on the menu at Birdie Bar. It was called chicken and apples. To be honest with you, I don't even remember what the dish looked like. It was like on the menu for a month maybe. We got so many questions, and we were like, we just need to take this off. Yeah.
So how quick are you to move from like a bad idea? Does it take, are you like stubborn in the sense of like, no, we're going to make it work?
No, we're not stubborn. I mean, I'm not stubborn in any of my businesses. If something isn't going wrong, I try my best to take feedback and rectify.
Let's talk about employees really quickly.
Yeah.
Business is phenomenal and terrible when you're working by yourself. It's phenomenal because you don't have anybody else to rely on, and they can't fail you, but you also don't have anybody else to rely on. As soon as you introduce employees, whether it be at a social media business where you have a handful of employees, or at a restaurant where you have a lot of employees, managing people can be a little difficult.
Definitely.
How do you go about managing all different personalities, and if something isn't working out with an employee, how do you handle that?
I have to say that my teaching background helped me so much with all of my different businesses. It taught me patience, working with people, communicating, teaching, because like I'm teaching people things every day, whether it's how to make a post on Instagram, how to properly greet someone at the door, how to sell something online. That helped me so much. But also, I mean, having partners, I have partners in all of my businesses, and I don't think I'd ever be able to have a business without a partner, because there's so many things that I'm so good at and so many things that I'm not good at all, which my partners create that balance and help navigate a business, obviously. And then managing employees is something that I think I'm actually good at just from my teaching background. Something's not working out, I'll speak to them. I would say in the restaurant it's a little bit more challenging because I'm with these people like all night long, so it's so easy to become so friendly with them and then have to kind of like
have to put the boss
voice on. So I would say like in the beginning I was so friendly and I'd be okay with everything, and now I'm like this isn't gonna fly. So it's a little more challenging in the restaurant versus the other businesses of mine.
Do you like it that way though? Do you like having that friendly relationship with your employees, or do you think that it would work better if it was a bit more of I'm the boss and you're the employee?
I think that they value me as a person and a human being more. They're able to come to me with their problems, and they kind of perform better, that knowing that like I'm friendly and there for them if they need something. I think if I were kind of more of a robot, they'd not put forth the effort that they do put forth. Yeah. Well,
I mean, if they care about you, they'll care about the business. As opposed to being like, I think everybody's worked for a boss that's like, this guy's a jerk. Like, I don't really. So if they feel that way about you as the owner, how much less are they going to care about the business?
Exactly.
One of the key performance factors for any business to create lasting business and a very successful business would be repeat customers. How do you find, whether it be in the Amici group, your social media, or whether it be in in Birdie Bar, even actually in Cosenza, the jewelry, how do you find, what are you doing actively to create repeat customers?
With Cosenza, I would say it's easier because it's just like email marketing and social media management. Sending those emails to repeat customers with special offers, and then obviously just being in communication with customers. They'll DM us on Instagram and say, "Hey, I bought these earrings a couple years ago, and one of the backs isn't as tight. Can you send me a new back?" Things like that. They see
Customer
we're a small
service.
business and we're like continuing to help them with products they bought years ago. That kind of brings them back to us. I would say with the restaurant, it's so easy to make those repeat customers feel special the second they walk in the door. Hey, how was so-and-so's graduation, lacrosse game, whatever. Spend time learning about them and their family. Give them a dessert once in a while. You know, it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy in the restaurant. It's the same people, luckily, every week that we see walking in. And with social media, I mean, when there's a special event going on for the client, we'll try our best to be there for them. And if they are willing to help us with gaining new clients, we have some type of incentive for them. Yeah, we always kind of give back.
So it sounds like it's essentially putting your best foot forward for the customer, and I think also like going the extra mile for the customer.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing I want to give a shout out to the restaurant King Umberto is one thing I think that they do really well over there is their memory retention for the customers' names and kids and like you said, the soccer game, and they remember things, and the next time they see you, if they see you again, they say, "Oh, how was John's soccer game? You know, did he win? Whatever." And like, just like that, I'm like, wow, like I feel like everybody's a family member here, or even how comfortable they make people feel. They come in for a pizza, they're waiting for the pizza, and they're like, "Oh, you want an espresso or something like that?" Like just making people feel comfortable. I think is such a cool thing, as opposed to just being this. Oh, we got to get you out as quickly as we can in a transaction. On the flip side of repeat customers, there's customers in every business that don't love the final product.
Right.
Have you ever had? I'm assuming you've had poor reviews.
Yeah.
Maybe not because it's a phenomenal establishment here, but if you have had poor reviews, has there ever been a review that you've actually seen the truth in, and it's like, oh, it actually triggered you to then make a change in the business?
Yeah, I mean.
And if so, what was that?
I would say, I mean, it's the easiest to kind of look at public reviews, obviously, for the restaurant. I wouldn't say it's so easy with social media and the jewelry.
So let's talk about the restaurant then.
Yeah. I make it a habit every week to go on and check the Open Table and the Yelp reviews just to see. And 9 times out of 10, it's these people complimenting one specific server, to be honest.
Really? That's cool.
They're obsessed with one server that we have.
Oh, just that one?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, I'm serious, yeah. But we do see things.
That person needs a raise.
Yeah, don't say that. We do see negative things, and we will read it. A lot of times, maybe people were waiting too long, and we'll message them, "Hey, we'd love to have you back in. Give us another shot." And a lot of times they do come back in, and we do make sure that that they have that best experience that they weren't able to get. And I would say we read and try to
actively make a difference. And rectifying is a cool thing. Just as a random example, I heard this in an interview once from a restaurant that they would specifically like, "Oh, hey, how when the customer would come in, they'd say, 'Oh, hey, how's it going? Like, is this your first time here?'" And if the person said yes, they would like mark it in like their book, and then when the server would come over to set the table or whatever the case, they put a specific colored napkin. And then all the servers would then know that this is their first time, and make it like make it an extraordinary experience. Now, obviously, you can't go above board. The next time they come, it's a totally different experience. But whether that be a free dessert the first time, and just something to be like, wow, this place actually cared that like we were like new customers, and they want us to come back rather than just being like, all right, we made our $200 and we're out of here.
No, that's a great idea.
I don't know. I was like, oh, that's really cool. Just actively noting which is a first-time customer and treating them specifically better. Yeah,
we're such a small place. We typically could tell if it's someone's first time, and like I'll go right up to the table and say, "Is it your first time with us?" Also, a lot of times they'll come in the door and say, "We're so excited, it's our first time here."
Yeah, exactly.
So as soon as I hear that, I make sure I go and I tell the server, just so you know, it's their first time here. Make sure you put on a show. I mean, we try to with every table, but
I also think the owners being inside the business makes a world of a difference. Seeing the owner, you could just tell the authority that the owner carries. So like you could just tell the person standing at the corner, the owner, and when they come over to the table and like, "Hey, I just want to see how things are going. Like, are you enjoying everything?" Typically, most people will feel a little uncomfortable, be like, and never to actually tell the truth if it's a bad experience.
Yeah.
In my experience, you're like, no, it's great, even if it's not. But it does make like, wow, that he actually at least cares enough.
Makes you feel special.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So one of the keys to running any business is how smooth you can run that business.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, are there specifically any tools or any apps or services that you use to help you run your businesses smoother?
Yeah. So for the Amici group, I use the app UNUM or Unum. I don't even know how it's properly pronounced. Actually, I was just in Malibu a couple weeks ago and drove past the office building of it every so often. I mean, I go out there because my friend lives out there and I always drive past it and laugh. But it's a platform that anyone that has social media can use. You don't need to be a social media manager. You don't need to be an influencer. Even if you just want to upload all your content to see what your feed would potentially look like if you post this versus that. It's a great tool to have, but especially if you're a business owner, it's a great way for you to plan out your feed. Like, even if you don't have a team behind you, hey, I took these 5 photos or 5 videos for this week. Let me add them into the app, see which order they look best on my feed, and then I can share it. But it's especially great for me being social media business because all of my employees can go on there and they see exactly what they need to post for each client each day.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah.
And one last question is, being that we're in Birdie Bar right now, what is your favorite thing on the menu here?
Gosh, there's so many good things. My favorite thing is the smash burger, which is only available on Wednesdays.
All right. Is that like a long-term thing, or is that a seasonal thing that they got to come in for?
I mean, the crispy chicken sandwich used to only be available on Sundays, and starting tonight, it's available every night, so you never know what might happen.
Wow.
But it is on our menu for Wednesdays only.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
I got to check that out.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for everybody that watched this. Definitely check out all the different businesses we talked about here. And if you need social media management, definitely reach out.
Yeah.
And if you want to buy jewelry, definitely reach out. Or if you're hungry, come in. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.